I think now most economists agree that the cost-benefit analysis isn't really covering everything it should cover. It's certainly true that the repair maintenance costs versus the construction costs could be very different with the proposals I've seen discussed for the Belmont Bridge. The Federal Highway Administration is now moving towards something called an Asset Sustainability Index, and it specifically intends to bring together construction of roads, construction of bridges, and the maintenance of the whole process. It could be used for the Belmont Bridge, but it'll take real leadership to do like what's going on in North Carolina, where you live with the existing rules, but you also recognize where they're going. So that is a bit of a trick. The next step is under something called the Government Accounting Standards Board, number 34. It's understood that government accounting should move towards a concept of public equity. So things like roads and bridges are not just assets in themselves, they are valued because of the community that they build. So you should treat it the same way a corporation treats its equity, that it depends on what people get for what they pay for it. So there is a clear future trend, which is going to be including these broader sets of benefits and costs. And if you think of an asset like whatever replaces the Belmont Bridge, it's going to be around for a while. And in that time, we're certainly going to have new accounting standards that are going to be applied to bridges and roads. So the question is whether the city of Charlottesville has the leadership that it had when Main Street was done and the rest of that to say, okay, we're going to try and anticipate where this process is going so we can pay for it, and not just we can pay for it, but the future taxpayers. Will they be able to pay the costs of the maintenance and repair that are going on? But what you have is like the great question of whether you can see the mountains from the town. When you put a big bridge in the way, it makes it very hard to see the mountains. So that is part of reminding people that the human settlement, the human welfare, doesn't come just from being able to move from point A to point B. It also comes from recognizing where they are and what are the special attractions of where they are. So for me, certainly, and economics claims that the bottom line is human welfare. How you measure it, how you go ahead and make sure you're doing it, that's tricky. But the bottom line should be human welfare. One of the places I am a bit familiar with is Nashville, and not only is it recognized as a place that's taken kind of a less than ideal setup and done wonderful things, but as an economist, I'm impressed by the way they've done fiscal impact studies to look at different scenarios. And specifically, they've done some interesting extensions of what the local government's ability to pay is if it goes for sort of modern placemaking, innovative approaches versus kind of conventional urban sprawl. And it shows hands down that over the life of the asset, it pays to be more innovative and not just look at it as a construction of a simple asset. So the bottom line to me is, first of all, you can't judge things just on the cost of the construction. If you did, you should still bear in mind as a local government and as a local concern that much of that will be carried by the federal level and the state level. Then the next part is the maintenance and repair costs fall heavily on the local government, so the local government has to figure out how it's going to pay those maintenance and repair costs. It's going to have to pay them not out of gasoline taxes like the construction costs come from, but out of other revenue sources like property taxes. So the best bridge project will be the one that is going to do the most to increase the property values either side of the bridge. In this case, the south side of the bridge, which now is not very prime, will become a much more valuable property if you choose the right solution. So it's not really easy to get this done unless you engage the civil engineers specifically in that question. And then you give them specifics about what you mean by an underpass in this case and what you mean by a bridge in this case, and let them go to work on it. But I think that's a little too easy to get caught up in the precision of this calculation rather than the accuracy of it. So the point is, precision means whether it's 17 million for this and 16 for the other one, where accuracy means have you covered the right things to begin with? So it could be that the full cost, if it looks like it's 15 or 16 million for the construction, when you add in the maintenance and repairs over the life of it, it's probably 50, 60 million dollars. So in that scale, the 1 million difference in the construction doesn't matter. But if you haven't fully costed the costs and benefits of the full cycle, you're not accurate. And that's the problem at the moment. It's people focusing on precision rather than accuracy. With all due respect, I don't think the parties are as far apart in Charlottesville as many of the places I've seen and worked. Okay, so I think there is a lot of positive energy, and you have the tradition. You do have the Main Street. And I think you'd find whether it's a government bureaucracy like the Federal Highway Administration or state departments of transportation, they all get the message that something has to change. They're all looking for a way. And one of the interesting things could be, in a place like Charlottesville, you can be a test case. You can try and say, okay, we know that we're not exactly fitting the rules the way they have been, but if everybody knows the rules are going to change, you look for an example like Charlottesville with this bridge, and you say, let's get a little creative. And it's not that big of a difference from what I've seen, by economic terms, not accounting, which option you choose in the construction cost. I think if you did a full cost accounting of these projects, the underpass thing would be so much cheaper in the full cost accounting. So if you did an asset sustainability index project or evaluation for these, you'd find that. So you'd need people, whether it's from the Federal Highway Administration, VDOT, you'd need people at that level engaged, and that's part of the city leadership issue. Is it willing to reach out? Is it able to reach out? So there are full cost accounting mechanisms that are available. They are being used, and I am just absolutely sure that in the next 30 years that'll be the norm here in the US. So the question is the city of Charlottesville going to be one of the last or one of the first to make that change?